Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. The Crossroad, a place where two or more roads overlap with one another, is a common occurrence throughout the world. Every town has at least one, and everyone who has ever traveled has passed through a crossroad at some point in their lives. Despite being so common, or perhaps because they are so common, a number of myths and superstitions surrounding crossroads have arisen throughout the world. In various parts of Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas, crossroads are portrayed as ethereal locations, where the borders between worlds, mortal and immortal, living and dead, would meet and sometimes fade into one another. Crossroads were where supernatural phenomenon would occur, both positive and negative in nature. And it was the crossroads where one may encounter monsters, sprites, demons, and the undead. No one knows exactly when or where superstitions surrounding crossroads originated, but it has been around for thousands of years. Early beliefs regarding crossroads were geared towards traveling. In a time when navigation was primitive, and travel and emigration were never a fully safe practice, crossroads could easily become obstacles, especially if they were unmarked. One wrong turn, and you could be miles away from your intended destination, losing time that you could not afford to waste, and perhaps heading towards unknown dangers. Crossroads became deeply associated with gods of travel and commerce, and would eventually develop their own patron deities who guard them. People traveling to and through crossroads in these areas would leave offerings to these deities and were even said to meet them at the crossroads. In ancient Greece, Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger of the gods, and his Roman counterpart Mercury, were honored with their images set in marker stones at the crossroads. Another Greek deity associated with them, with boundaries and the supernatural as a whole, was Hecate, who, although far less prominent in mythology, was offered food at crossroads on the night of each new moon. The Greeks even believed that Hecate would appear at crossroads on clear nights, accompanied by wayward spirits and howling phantom dogs. In Yoruba mythology, the trickster Orisha Eshu was said to reside at the crossroads, where he maintains the delicate balance of the world of happiness, joy, and fulfillment, as well as the arena of destruction, hopelessness, and sorrow. The Gallic and Pan-Celtic horse goddess Ipana would also show herself to those she considered worthy of aid, if the petitioner called for her at the crossroads. In time, it was more than gods that were said to lurk at these places. Crossroads were said to be haunted by various entities that delighted in leading confused travelers astray. Predatory spirits and monsters who sought to abuse or devour people. And perhaps most frequently, by ghosts and other members of the undead. Romanian folklore relates how vampires would sometimes wait at crossroads after nightfall and attack travelers. In the British Isles, one may encounter spectral black dogs, such as the Barghest, Gaitra, or Black Shuck at the crossroads, heralding the imminent death of all who encounter them. In Brittany, crossroads are said to be the home of the money cat, a black cat who gives silver coins when pet, good luck after it's been captured and treated humanely, or bad luck if it had been mistreated in any way. In German lore, a phantom rider haunted the crossroads in Schleswig, the neck of his mount stretching across the road and preventing people from passing. In a legend from Pomerania, a traveler was stopped at a crossroads one night by a shadowy figure wearing a long coat and wooden shoes. To the man's horror, the figure followed him home and haunted his house. Finally, the man spoke to the ghost, who asked him to accompany the spirit to a churchyard and say prayers that would allow the restless shade to at last attain his peace. In folklore pertaining to the rituals of Samhain and the eventual celebration of All Hallows' Eve, known today as Halloween, spirits of the dead appear at crossroads each year when the veil between the worlds would be at its thinnest, walking in processions to visit the homes of their relatives. At other times, the dead were said to be conjured at the crossroads. A ritual in Danish lore instructs one to go to a crossroad at midnight on New Year's Eve and stand within a rectangle formed by horse cart tracks. The ghost would then appear when their name in life was called and would be required to answer 3 questions. Some legends claim that one may divine who is going to die by performing rituals at crossroads, especially at certain times of the year, such as All Hallows' Eve or Walpurgis Night. In Welsh lore, one goes to a crossroad and listens for the wind blowing over the feet of the corpses, which bears sighs to the houses of those doomed to die within the coming year. In the Scottish Highlands, if one sits on a 3-legged stool in a 3-way crossroad at midnight, one will hear the names of those who will die. In German folklore, one could hear the names of those doomed to die when they stood at the crossroads between 11 o'clock and midnight on either Christmas or New Year's Eve. But of all entities said to appear at crossroads, whether by lurking or being summoned through ritual, perhaps none is more prominent than the devil. Stories of the devil appearing at a crossroads are found in every nation where Christianity is practiced, appearing in a wide variety of folk tales, including Grimm's fairy tales. In America, he is said to sometimes appear as a charismatic and debonair man, offering people an outlandish deal that is bound to end in disaster, and him with more souls. One of the most famous crossroads myths in America is that of the legendary blues musician Robert Johnson. As the story goes, Johnson made his way to a crossroads near Dockery Plantation at midnight, and expressed his intention and desire for a deal in the middle of them. Summoned, the devil took Johnson's guitar out of his hands, strummed a few nearly unearthly chords, before handing back the guitar to Johnson. When Johnson played, the notes and talent flowed from his fingers, and he went on to become a renowned blues guitarist. Some of his lyrics are often seen as a sort of proof of this deal, such as in his song Hellhound on My Trail. Robert Johnson died early at the young age of 27, joining the infamous 27 Club. Was his untimely death the work of the devil, or simply a case of everyday tragedy? Whatever the truth may be, both Robert Johnson and his devil legend remain integral to mythology of Crossroads. Though crossroads are little more than an intersection of roadways, their impact on mythology and folklore, religion and superstition are significant. In times of old, the crossroads were seen as more than a place where the roads met. They were a place where worlds met. Mortal and divine, living and dead, natural and supernatural. They were watched over by ancient gods. They were haunted by monsters and denizens of the afterlife. And they acted as the locale of more than a few shady figures willing to make a shady deal in return for one's soul. Symbolically, the crossroads represent liminality, a place neither here nor there, and the hard choices that we will always end up facing in our lives.